Most people earning good money genuinely believe they are building something lasting, until the numbers finally say otherwise, and by then, time has already quietly decided. 7 habits, not 7 products. 7 decisions the top 5% make consistently, starting early, staying disciplined, and that most households never encounter at all. Stay with that last part. Music swell. The median household holds $192,700. The top 5% hold $3 million. That gap isn't luck, it's deliberate behavior, repeated consistently over decades. 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, even many earning well over $100,000 a year. Income isn't the real problem. Behavior is. If you're 45 to 65, earned a decent living, yet still feel uncertain about retirement security, these 7 habits can close that gap. These habits require no expensive course or special equipment. They're invisible because they look completely ordinary, and most people walk right past them every single day. 1% in annual fees on a $500,000 portfolio costs roughly $180,000 in lost compounding over 20 years. And honestly, how often do you even glance at what you're paying in fees? One small habit, quietly missing the whole time. Comfortable is the most dangerous feeling in personal finance. It's exactly what people report feeling most in the 2 or 3 years before a retirement shortfall hits. The top 5% consistently save 20 to 28% of gross income. The median American saves just 3.6%. That gap explains almost everything. People who automate savings build 73% higher balances after 10 years. Willpower fades. Systems don't. Automation is the real strategy. He retired at 63 with $400,000 saved. By 68, he had just $112,000 left. Not because he was reckless, because 3 critical habits were missing. Tax-deferred accounts feel safe, and honestly, that comfort is the problem. Because at age 73, the IRS forces mandatory withdrawals that push most retirees into a higher tax bracket. 7 habits. Each measurable, each adoptable at any age, and each one, if missing, quietly working against you every single day, no matter your income. Habit 1. Track net worth, not income. They're not the same, and confusing the two is the single most common financial mistake high earners make. Tracking income while ignoring net worth tricks high earners into confusing lifestyle inflation with real wealth, silently costing the average household over $340,000 by age 65. A net worth check takes 11 minutes flat. Most people never bother, and if you have ever avoided that number because you were afraid of what it might be, you already know exactly why it matters. The top 5% do it monthly, because that number never lies to you. Income is what you earn each month. Net worth is what you actually keep. Retirement runs on that second number, never the first. Habit 2 is one most people think they already practice, almost none do, not at the level that actually moves the number. There's a real difference between occasionally transferring money to savings when you remember, and building a system that moves it automatically before you ever see it. That gap, compounded quietly over 10 years, is everything. Automation removes the decision entirely. Money moves before you see it, so willpower is never tested. People who automate savings show 73% higher balances after 10 years. That's not marginal. That's a retirement, a down payment, a life changed. The mechanism isn't discipline. It's structure, and structure wins every single time. At 50, 20% of gross income is the floor, not the goal. At 55, with under $300,000 saved, 25% may still fall short. Write down that number, 300,000, because it's the line that changes everything. That means redirecting bonuses, refunds, and raises before lifestyle absorbs them. These aren't comfortable numbers, they're honest ones. The gap is structural. and structure can change this week. Every raise that goes to lifestyle before it goes to savings resets the clock entirely. Stop and think about that for a second. The top 5% automate a fixed percentage of every income increase before they adjust anything else. The raise arrives. The transfer increases automatically. The lifestyle simply adjusts to whatever remains. That order is everything. The mechanism is straightforward. Paycheck arrives. An automated transfer moves a fixed percentage to investment accounts that same day before you ever touch it. What remains is what you spend, not the other way around. This single reversal, invest first, live on the rest, is the structural difference most people never actually make. Habit 3 is the one the financial industry hopes you skip. Most people do skip it. And that skip costs them more than any single bad investment decision ever could. Fees are not automatic. They do not send you a warning. They do not announce themselves. They simply reduce your balance, quietly, every single year, compounding against you for decades. 1% sounds small. Harmless even. But on a $500,000 portfolio over 20 years, that single percent costs you $180,000 in compounding you never see. Not money you handed over, growth that never existed, stripped away silently before compounding could ever reach it. 1%, 20 years. Gone forever. Expense ratios. Surrender charges. Advisory percentage fees. These three structures, stacked together, can quietly extract 2 to 3% annually from a portfolio most people believe is going at full speed. On a $200,000 account, that's thousands vanishing each year. Notice what's happening. The portfolio grows on paper, while the real return is steadily redirected elsewhere. Index funds, with expense ratios below 0.1% exist in nearly every major brokerage: Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab. Most people assume the top 5% of investors got there by picking better stocks. But the reverse is actually what separates them. They are more deliberate fee eliminators. That distinction matters enormously, because fee elimination requires no market prediction and no special access whatsoever. It requires only a single decision and, in most cases, one account transfer. Pull every account statement and find the expense ratio column. Add them up across every fund you hold. If your total annual fee load exceeds 0.5% of assets, you've found the first place to recover real money. This audit takes one afternoon and a spreadsheet. Most people never do it. The top 5% do it every single year. Habit 4 separates people who understand investing from people who understand wealth, and those aren't the same skill. Investing knowledge tells you what to buy. Wealth knowledge tells you where to hold it, and in which specific account type, so the IRS collects as little as legally possible over 30 years. That distinction quietly determines how much you actually keep. Traditional accounts defer taxes, meaning the IRS is a silent partner in every dollar you have saved. Roth accounts eliminate that partner entirely. The top 5% understand which structure to use and when to switch. After 60, with required distributions looming, that decision becomes more consequential with every passing year. Let that sink in. Only 21% of Americans correctly understand how 401k withdrawals are taxed in retirement. The other 79% find out the hard way when the IRS mandates their first required minimum distribution 72, forcing taxable income they never planned for, often at a higher rate than anything they paid while working. Pause here. That isn't a surprise. It's a consequence. Between retirement and required minimum distributions, there's often a window of lower taxable income lasting several years. The top 5% use it deliberately, converting traditional IRA funds to Roth at reduced marginal rates, sometimes the 12 or 22% bracket. Most retirees let that window quietly close without ever realizing it existed. Where an asset sits matters as much as what the asset is. Growth-oriented holdings in a Roth compound completely tax-free over decades. Income-generating holdings like bonds in a traditional account defer a tax bill until withdrawal. This is asset location, not allocation. Notice what's happening here. Two portfolios with identical holdings can produce very different after-tax outcomes. The decision order: employer match first, always, that's free money. HSA if eligible. Roth IRA if income allows. Tax-deferred maximum next. Taxable brokerage last. Sequence matters more than amount at this stage. Most people fund accounts in the order they heard about them, not the order that actually minimizes lifetime taxes. Habit 5 is the one almost no one in their 50s has thought through carefully, yet it most directly determines whether your retirement lasts or runs short. You can do everything else right, save diligently, invest wisely, and still have this one thing quietly undo it all in the first few years. Sound familiar? That's how critical sequence of returns awareness truly is. A 30% market drop in year 1 of retirement can deplete a portfolio 15 years faster than the same drop in year 10. The average return matters far less than the order those returns arrive in. Two retirees with identical lifetime averages can reach completely opposite outcomes based entirely on when the bad years happen to fall. The average American spends 18 months in retirement before realizing their withdrawal rate is unsustainable. 18 months. By then, the sequence has already done its damage. The portfolio is smaller, the recovery window is shorter, and the adjustments required, cutting spending, returning to work, selling assets, are far more painful than they ever needed to be. 2 to 3 years of living expenses in cash or short-term bonds means you never sell a declining portfolio to cover monthly bills. Think of it as drawdown runway. That buffer isn't idle money. It's sequence of returns insurance, and the most underused tool in early retirement planning. The 5 years before and after retirement form the highest risk decade of your financial life. And here is the part most people miss. Equity exposure appropriate at 50 can be dangerous at 62, when recovery time shrinks dramatically. The top 5% continuously adjust their glide path as retirement approaches, never assuming an allocation set years ago still fits today. The 4% rule was a guideline from 1994, built on a specific historical data set of U.S. market returns. It is not a guarantee. The top 5% use dynamic withdrawal rates, voluntarily spending less in down years without being prompted. That behavioral flexibility extends a portfolio's longevity far more reliably than any fixed percentage ever could. Habit 6 is the one that sounds like budgeting, but is not budgeting. It is something more deliberate, and far more effective at the income levels most people watching this have already reached. Budgeting reacts to what already happened last month. Spending architecture decides exactly what is allowed to happen before the month even begins. Budgeting tracks what already happened. Spending architecture decides what is allowed to happen before the month even begins. One is accounting. The other is intention. Notice what's really happening here. That single distinction, properly understood and applied, is worth more than any budget app, color-coded category, or spreadsheet you have ever downloaded, opened once, and quietly abandoned. The average household pays for 11 subscriptions, but actively uses just 4. And if you've ever opened your bank statement and felt that slow, sinking recognition of a charge you completely forgot about, you already know how this happens. The other 7 aren't small mistakes. They're the result of never designing a system in the first place. Streaming services, software trials, forgotten gym apps, quietly draining your account. 7 recurring charges, month after month, funding nothing you value. The top 5% spend generously on what truly matters and ruthlessly cut everything else. Not deprivation, precision. Every dollar yields either life satisfaction or future security. A vacation that restores you is high yield. A forgotten subscription is not. Spending without that lens is how six-figure income produces a four-figure net worth. Once a year, every recurring expense gets reviewed against one simple question: does this still earn its place? That question, asked honestly, subscriptions, memberships, insurance rates, everything, typically frees $300 to $600 per month without reducing any meaningful quality of life. That is $3,600 to $7,200 annually redirected toward a retirement that actually holds. Market downturns get the headlines. Lifestyle inflation quietly gets the money. Most people cannot name their monthly spending within $500. The top 5% know it to within $50. That gap in precision is not trivial. It is the actual distance between a retirement that lasts decades and one that simply, almost invisibly, runs short. Habit 7 is the one that makes the other 6 compoundable. Without it, the others are one-time decisions. With it, they become self-improving systems. Most people consume financial content constantly: podcasts, articles, videos, newsletters, yet absorb almost none of it, because consumption without structure produces noise, not knowledge. Mark that number 7 down, because the difference here is deliberate, intentional learning. Financial news is not financial education. It is financial weather, temporary, reactive, and mostly irrelevant to a 30-year retirement horizon. The top 5% are not better informed about today's market movements. They are better structured in the enduring principles that govern every market cycle, regardless of what today's headline or tomorrow's forecast says. For domains move the number, tax law applied to retirement accounts, insurance structures including long-term care, foundational estate planning, and investment cost architecture. For specific domains, everything else is secondary. Deep, applied knowledge in these 4 areas is worth far more than broad, surface-level familiarity with 20 different topics. Quarterly review. 1 hour. For questions: did net worth grow? Did the savings rate hold? Did fees stay below target? Is the tax strategy still current? For questions: 90 days, compounding results over time. This is not a complex system. It is a deliberately simple one, repeated with enough discipline that it stops being a habit and becomes structural. Delegating every financial decision to an advisor without the knowledge to evaluate that advice isn't prudence, it's exposure. The top 5% hire advisors and still understand exactly what they're being told. Here's what most people miss. The advisor's job is execution and strategy. Your job is comprehension. One without the other is an incomplete system. That $340,000 shortfall by 65 isn't an income problem, it's a knowledge problem. Most people assume the fix is a higher salary, but the data points the other way entirely. Missing even one of these 7 habits, compounded over decades, quietly creates that gap. And here's the key insight: you don't close it by earning more. You close it by knowing more, and consistently acting on what you know. Each habit practiced alone improves one outcome. Practiced together, they create a compounding feedback loop none could generate individually. Better sleep sharpens focus. Sharper focus deepens learning. Deeper learning accelerates results. This is why the top 5% don't just pull ahead gradually, they pull ahead exponentially. 7 ordinary decisions, stacked deliberately, compounding into an extraordinary distance. They track net worth. They automate contributions. They minimize fees. They spend intentionally. But they've never addressed tax location across account types, carry no sequence of returns buffer, and their financial education quietly stopped at the last job change. 4 of 7 is real progress, but 3 doors are still open. The market is patient enough to eventually walk through all of them. She retires at 64 with $1.4 million, a fully mapped tax strategy through age 80, 2 years of living expenses sitting safely outside equities, and no advisory fee load above 0.15%. She did not earn twice the median income. She never got a windfall. She simply practiced all 7 habits consistently for 20 years. Let that sink in. If you're 54 reading this as a list of missed opportunities, stop. The next 10 years respond to these habits faster than the previous 30. Dollar amounts are larger, compounding still matters, and tax windows are narrower. A Roth conversion at 55 hits differently than at 30. Stay with that sentence. Late isn't too late. Late is urgent. Assets minus liabilities. Every account, every property at fair market value, every debt balance, not what you paid, but what things are worth today. Your retirement account, your car, your mortgage, distilled into one figure. Tracked monthly, that number becomes the most honest financial conversation you'll ever have. Most people avoid it because of exactly that. 3 errors distort the number consistently. Overvaluing real estate based on wishful Zillow estimates, excluding vehicle loan liabilities entirely, and including retirement accounts at value without adjusting for the embedded tax owed on withdrawal. Each error makes the situation look better than it actually is. And a number that flatters you is worse than no number at all. Employer plan automation is the starting point, not the finish line. The top 5% automate contributions to taxable brokerage accounts, health savings accounts, and a dedicated emergency fund simultaneously. Each transfer triggers on payday without a single manual step. The system runs without monthly decisions. That is the design goal. Remove the decision entirely, and the habit never fails. The health savings account offers a rare triple tax advantage. Contributions reduce taxable income today, growth compounds tax-free, and qualified medical withdrawals are penalty-free. After 65, it functions like a traditional IRA for any expense. Sound familiar with your own situation? Most people drain it annually, and that's one of retirement planning's costliest mistakes. 3 lines in any fund prospectus tell you most of what you need to know. The total expense ratio, the 12b1 distribution fee, and the portfolio turnover rate. High turnover triggers taxable capital gains distributions in non-retirement accounts, a hidden cost most investors never notice. Seriously, just 3 lines. And most people have never once looked. 2 questions for every advisory relationship. First, is this advisor a fiduciary, legally required to act in your interest, not just recommend suitable products? Second, what is the total all-in annual cost as a percentage of your assets, including hidden fees? If you cannot answer both questions clearly and confidently, you have not yet truly evaluated the relationship. Retiring at 62 with $800,000 in a traditional IRA, then delaying Social Security until 67, creates a 5-year low-income window. Converting $50,000 to $80,000 annually while staying inside the 22% bracket strategically shrinks your future required minimum distributions, meaning less taxable income forced on you at 73. Up to 85% of Social Security benefits can become taxable based on your combined income. Here is the part most retirees miss. A large traditional IRA triggering required minimum distributions can push that income high enough to hit the maximum taxable rate almost overnight. By the time they see this collision coming, it's already too late to prevent it. Start with annual essential expenses, housing, food, healthcare, utilities. Multiply by 2. That's your minimum buffer target, roughly 2 years of breathing room. Hold outside equities, money market accounts, short-term treasuries, or CDs. It earns modest returns, but its real job isn't earning. It's protecting your portfolio from forced selling. When equities rise, rebalancing sells the gain and replenishes the cash buffer. When they fall, the buffer covers withdrawals, while the portfolio recovers without forcing a sale at a loss. The protection is automatic, but only if the buffer exists and rebalancing is scheduled, not emotional. Sequence risk protection is built into the structure, not the timing. 3 categories. Fixed non-negotiables like housing and utilities. Committed investments that transfer automatically first, then the remaining discretionary pool. That pool is where most financial plans collapse. Nobody designed how it should behave. Top performers don't manage it reactively. They decide in advance exactly what every dollar does before the month begins. Name your 3 most important life priorities. Now look at last month's 3 biggest discretionary expenses. If those lists match, your system is working. If they don't, know exactly where to start making changes. The exercise takes 60 seconds and costs nothing. Most people avoid it, not because it's hard, but because they already know the answer. 1 substantive source per quarter. Not financial news, a book, a CPA's plain language summary, a fee-only planner's annual letter. Depth over volume. If you have ever felt that creeping unease when someone throws jargon at you, and you nod along, that is exactly what this fixes. The goal isn't to become an expert. It's to become impossible to deceive. That's a fundamentally different target, and entirely reachable with just 1 serious, well-chosen source every 90 days. Tax preparation can be delegated. Tax strategy cannot, not without understanding what you're approving. Estate documents can be drafted by an attorney, but the decisions behind them must be yours. Which assets go to whom, and when, those calls belong to you. The line between delegating and abdicating is understanding. Hire the professional. Then understand what they built and why. 70% of people over 65 will need some form of long-term care. A private nursing home room now runs over $108,000 a year, and costs keep climbing. Most retirement projections never include that number. This isn't a remote possibility, it's a statistical probability sitting quietly outside every financial spreadsheet most people have ever built. 3 structures address this risk: traditional long-term care insurance, hybrid life policies combining a death benefit with care coverage, or a dedicated self-insurance reserve, never touched for any other purpose. Each carries real cost and coverage trade-offs worth modeling carefully. Statistically, ignoring the question past 60 simply isn't a responsible option. Beneficiary designations override wills entirely. Most people set them once and never revisit them again. Write down the number 1 priority on your estate planning checklist, because updating those forms is it. A divorced spouse can inherit an entire retirement account simply because 1 form was never updated after the split. This isn't a rare edge case. Estate attorneys see it routinely, almost weekly. Take a moment to let that truly sink in. Every retirement account, every life insurance policy, every annuity contract. Locate the primary and contingent beneficiary listed on each one. Then ask yourself whether those names still reflect your current intentions. For most people working through this exercise, the answer on at least 1 account is no. A former spouse and a estranged relative. That answer costs nothing to correct today. 7 habits. Rate yourself honestly 0 to 10 each. Add the scores up. Below 42, there's real ground to recover right now. Start there. Above 56, the habits exist, but consistency becomes the real question. Notice what the score actually does. It doesn't judge you. It locates you. That's all you need to start moving. If only 1 habit is actionable this week, start with a net worth calculation. Not because it earns money fastest, because it shows exactly what the other 6 habits are working with. You cannot navigate without a starting point. 11 minutes. A spreadsheet. List every account, every debt. Assets minus liabilities. 1 honest, unfiltered number. That's your real starting line. Week 1. Calculate net worth. Week 3. Automate savings. Month 2. Audit every account's fees, then schedule quarterly reviews. Month 3. Tax location strategy with a CPA. By day 90, all 7 habits have a structural home inside your routine. The calendar did the heavy lifting. You just kept the appointments and showed up. 3 habits practiced consistently for 10 years will beat 1 lucky investment every time. All 7 practiced together for 10 years produce results your peers genuinely can't explain, because the mechanism is completely invisible from outside. Most people assume the big breakthrough came first, and the discipline followed. It's actually the other way around entirely. Compounding behavior always looks like overnight luck until someone carefully traces the full timeline. There's a particular anxiety that comes not from knowing things are bad, but from not knowing they're good. People who sleep well in their 60s rarely have the most money. They simply know their exact number and have a clear, written plan. Certainty isn't a luxury product you purchase. It's a daily practice. The top 5% isn't a birth category or a salary floor. It's the compounded result of 7 specific behaviors, practiced consistently until the math does the heavy lifting for you. That's a door, not a wall. The real separation point has never been income level. It's decision repeated daily. There comes a moment when you stop seeing yourself as someone who earns money and start seeing yourself as someone who owns a system that grows it. That shift happens in your mind before it shows up in your bank account. No product, no minimum balance, no permission required. Just a decision available to you right now. People who track net worth monthly make different decisions, not because they have more information, but because that single number creates accountability that willpower alone never sustains. Knowing you should save is not enough. Actually measuring whether you did is. That gap between intention and evidence is where real change lives, and where all 7 habits begin. Most people in your income bracket have never mapped their tax location strategy. Most have not completed a fee audit. Most cannot name their net worth within $50,000. You have now been through all 7 habits, reviewed, applied, and understood. That is a real, specific, and immediate advantage beginning today. Information without action is just a longer to-do list. The only question is which of these 7 habits you'll implement this week. Not eventually, not when things calm down, but this week. Pick one, schedule it, protect the time. The next video shows you exactly how to build that full 90-day plan, step by step.